When I try to kick him, I just put halfway his feet in my face. And they stop there, I pose. They ask me, how is it? Good.
It's very fast, and some stuntmen follow him, shooting some. That stuntman is before it's a work for me.
Imagine standing face to face with Bruce Lee, and in the next moment, his foot is in front of your eyes. That's exactly what Sammo Hung experienced, and it left him speechless. For years, Hung stayed silent about what Bruce showed him that day. But now, he's breaking his silence. He's sharing stories of their rivalry, respect, and the shocking truth behind their first sparring session. Bruce Lee was born on November 27, 1940, in San Francisco at Chinese Hospital on Jackson Street. It was the Year of the Dragon, and he was born during the Hour of the Dragon, which made his arrival feel special. His birth name was Lee Jun Fan, meaning "Return Again Lee," as his mother believed he would return to China someday. After his birth, Bruce and his mother stayed in a small home on Trenton Street, while his father traveled with the Chinese Opera Company. Surprisingly, Bruce's connection to the spotlight began when he was just 3 months old. He appeared in a film called Golden Gate Girl, where he played a baby being carried by his father. Though it was a tiny role, it marked the first step in a life that would become legendary. Decades later, in 1998, a plaque was placed at the hospital where he was born, honoring his life and legacy. Not long after his birth, Bruce's family returned to Hong Kong. His early years there were full of challenges and unforgettable moments. The Lees lived in a small 2-room apartment above some shops on Nathan Street in Kowloon. Bruce's connection to film only grew stronger as he got older. After returning to Hong Kong, he began acting in movies as a child, appearing in about 20 films between 1946 and 1959. His first real role was in The Birth of Mankind, where he played a boy who runs away and meets a tragic end. This was followed by The Kid in 1950, where he played a tough but kind-hearted street kid, a role that seemed to fit him perfectly. Directors were drawn to his natural talent, and he quickly became known for characters that had both grit and warmth. Movies like Wealth is Like a Dream and The Orphan showed just how much potential he had, even at a young age. These early roles gave a glimpse of the charisma and presence that would later make him a global star. Bruce's father, Lee Hoi Chuen, was a big influence on his love for performing. Lee Hoi Chuen was a well-known opera singer and actor in Hong Kong during a time when Cantonese opera was becoming popular. Bruce would often accompany his father to rehearsals and performances, getting a close look at the world of entertainment. Watching his father perform taught Bruce about discipline and the magic of storytelling. Although his father initially didn't want him to pursue acting because it was an unstable career, his connections in the industry helped Bruce get his early roles. Bruce Lee's journey into martial arts started in a way that few might expect. At just 7 years old, his father, Lee Hoi Chuen, enrolled him in Wu-style Tai Chi. This wasn't to make him a fighter, but to help manage his boundless energy. Bruce was so active that people nicknamed him Never Sit Still. But his real love for martial arts began years later, at age 13. After losing a street fight, he begged his mother for lessons. She agreed, and that's when he started learning Wing Chun under the famous Grandmaster Yip Man. Funny enough, before Wing Chun, Bruce had already been sneaking in some training in Hung Gar Kung Fu. He learned it from his dad's opera friends, fascinated by the strong punches and footwork. Training with Yip Man wasn't simple. Because Bruce was of mixed heritage, some students didn't want him there. To avoid problems, Yip arranged for Bruce to train privately with one of his best assistants, Wang Xun-leung. This setup turned out to be a blessing. Wang was one of the school's top fighters, and Bruce learned a lot from him during their time together. For about a year and a half, Bruce trained hard, soaking in everything he could before his life took him to America. Bruce never stuck to just one style. While training in Wing Chun, he also learned boxing at school. A coach taught him personally, and Bruce mixed boxing's power with Wing Chun's speed, creating his own quick punching style. On top of that, his brother Peter introduced him to fencing, which taught him how to move and manage distance better. Bruce was obsessed with practice. He'd spend hours punching sandbags or working on a wooden dummy, building the lightning-fast moves he became famous for. At 18, Bruce's life in Hong Kong became dangerous. He was getting into too many street fights, including one with the son of a powerful triad family. The police warned his parents that he could end up in jail, or worse. So, with just $100 in his pocket, Bruce left for America in 1959. On the 3-week boat ride to San Francisco, passengers often saw him practicing his moves on the deck. After arriving, he stayed with his sister for a short time before moving to Seattle. There, he worked as a live-in waiter at a restaurant while continuing to practice and improve his martial arts skills. Bruce Lee's big break came in 1965 when he got a call from a producer named William Dozier. He was offered the role of Kato in The Green Hornet. The pay wasn't much, only $400 per episode. But Bruce didn't care. He grabbed the chance and moved his family to a small apartment in Los Angeles. It was their first real home in America. To celebrate, he bought a blue Chevy Nova, feeling proud of how far he had come. At first, the producers wanted to show simple fight scenes, like the ones in Western movies. But Bruce refused. He wanted to show real kung fu. He was so fast that the cameras couldn't keep up, so they had to slow down the footage. Even then, his moves were so impressive that people couldn't stop watching him. Bruce became the star of the show, even though it was supposed to focus on the Green Hornet. The show did okay in America, but was a huge hit in Hong Kong. People there even called it the Kato Show. During a press event with the Batman cast, Bruce spoke in Chinese to show his pride in his roots. His co-star, Van Williams, joked that Bruce was so quick he could knock someone over just by sneezing near them. Before all this fame, Bruce was a martial arts teacher. He started small, teaching in a Seattle parking garage. Later, he opened a school called the Junfan Gung Fu Institute. Bruce accepted students of all backgrounds, breaking tradition in the martial arts world. This upset many people, and even led to a famous fight with Wong Jack Man in 1964. Bruce won, but the fight made him realize that traditional martial arts weren't enough. He needed to create something better. Bruce's new approach to martial arts became Jeet Kune Do. It wasn't a strict style, but a way of fighting that was flexible and practical. The name came to him while driving with his friend Dan Inosanto. Jeet Kune Do was inspired by boxing, fencing, and Wing Chun. Bruce even studied Muhammad Ali's moves to learn from his footwork. He believed in constant improvement and refused to turn Jeet Kune Do into a business. He wanted it to stay true to his vision. Despite initial success, Bruce had a hard time in Hollywood. He wanted to show authentic martial arts, but Hollywood often offered him roles that were either small or based on Asian stereotypes. The worst moment came when he wasn't chosen to star in the TV show Kung Fu. Instead, the role went to David Carradine, who didn't even know martial arts. This rejection pushed Bruce to leave Hollywood and return to Hong Kong, determined to prove he could be a star. Back in Hong Kong, Lee's rise to stardom began with The Big Boss in 1971. The film was made on a very small budget of $100,000, but it became a massive hit, earning $50 million worldwide. This was a huge success, especially for a movie made so cheaply. However, making the film wasn't easy. During filming, Bruce cut his hand badly while washing a piece of glass. He needed 10 stitches, and for much of the movie, he had to wear a bandage. When The Big Boss premiered in Hong Kong on October 23, 1971, the audience went wild. People cheered and clapped so loudly that Bruce and his wife Linda could barely leave the theater because of the excited crowd. The film became a record-breaking success in no time. In just 3 days, it made over 1 million Hong Kong dollars at the box office, and by the end of its run, it had broken every record. Almost 1/3 of Hong Kong's population, about 1.2 million people, went to see it. Bruce Lee was now a superstar. After that, Bruce's next movie, Fist of Fury, took his fame even higher. Released in 1972, it earned $100 million worldwide. The story of the film, about Chinese resistance to Japanese occupation, struck a chord with audiences, especially in China. In Singapore, it caused chaos at a midnight screening when hundreds of cars created traffic jams, forcing the film to start late. By the end of its run in Singapore, it had broken all box office records. Bruce's next big film, Way of the Dragon, came later that same year. This movie featured one of the most famous fights in movie history: Bruce Lee against Chuck Norris in Rome's Colosseum. What many people don't know is that the scene was filmed illegally. Bruce and his crew had to bribe officials and sneak cameras into the Colosseum by pretending to be tourists. They had only a few hours to shoot before getting kicked out, so they filmed what they could and later finished the scene in a studio. The fight itself was carefully planned. Bruce even had to slow down his movements because he was too fast for the cameras to capture. The film, made for $130,000, earned $130 million worldwide. One fan even wrote to Chuck Norris, asking if Bruce really pulled out his chest hair during the fight. By this time, Bruce had gained full control over his movies. For Way of the Dragon, he wrote, directed, and choreographed the fights. This was a big deal because very few Asian actors had this kind of power in the film industry. Bruce used this freedom to make martial arts movies feel more real, moving away from the exaggerated fantasy-style action that was popular at the time. In 1971, Bruce Lee was filming Fist of Fury at Golden Harvest Studios when he met a young martial artist named Sammo Hung. Hung was just 19, part of a group of skilled stunt performers that included Jackie Chan. Even at a young age, Hung was already known for his incredible moves, despite being bigger than most acrobats. But this meeting wasn't just a casual encounter. It turned into a legendary moment that people still talk about today. The two met in a hallway at the studio. Hung was curious about Lee's famous speed, which everyone said was unmatched. During their conversation, Hung couldn't resist asking, "Are you really as fast as they say?" It wasn't meant to be rude. He genuinely wanted to know. Bruce, being confident and direct, smiled and replied, "Do you want to see?" Before Hung could prepare himself, Lee showed him exactly why he was called the fastest man in martial arts. In a split second, Lee threw a kick aimed right at Hung's face. The kick didn't hit. It wasn't supposed to. But it was so fast that Hung didn't even have time to react. It happened faster than a blink. Lee's movements were so quick that regular film cameras couldn't even catch them properly. The kick was just one example of the speed that made Bruce a legend, the same speed that let him snatch coins from people's hands before they could close their fists. According to Sammo, he was amazed by Bruce's speed and told him so right away. But Jackie Chan shared another version in the book Bruce Lee. a life. He said there was some light contact during their exchange, and Sammo later told him the fight was even. Jackie joked that since no one else saw it, what really happened is still unknown. What's certain is that this meeting didn't create any problems between them. In fact, it brought them closer. Sammo later appeared in Bruce's iconic movie Enter the Dragon, 1973, playing his opponent in the film's opening fight. Sammo played a Shaolin student challenging Bruce in a sparring match. Dressed in traditional martial arts clothes and fingerless gloves, something MMA fighters would make famous years later, Sammo faced off against Bruce in a fight filled with incredible moves. It wasn't just for show. The choreography included strikes, throws, and grappling. The fight ended with Bruce trapping Sammo in an armbar, forcing him to give up. This moment wasn't just exciting, it was ahead of its time. Decades later, mixed martial arts would become a global phenomenon, but this fight gave audiences a glimpse of it long before that. What made it even more impressive was how it was filmed. There was no sound recorded during filming. All the audio was added later, following the way Hong Kong movies were made back then. For Sammo, working with Bruce was life-changing. He took what he learned and became one of Hong Kong's biggest names in film. Over the years, he directed more than 30 movies and worked with stars like Michelle Yeoh and Tony Leung. His skills as a fight choreographer led to huge projects, like Ashes of Time in 1994 and Twilight of the Warriors, Walled In 2024. But no matter how successful Sammo became, he never stopped admiring Bruce. He kept calling him his hero, even decades later. In a candid moment, Hung admitted that before he could even raise his leg to waist level during their impromptu sparring session, Lee's foot was already positioned at his face. Martial arts cinema has changed the way we watch and enjoy action movies, and a lot of that is thanks to legends like Bruce Lee and Sammo Hung. Bruce Lee shook up the film world in the 1970s with his incredible skills and groundbreaking ideas. His first big movie, The Big Boss, 1971, broke records in Hong Kong, making $3.2 million, a huge amount at the time. Then came Enter the Dragon, 1973, which was made for just $450,000, but earned an unbelievable $100 million worldwide. That success didn't just make money, it proved martial arts films could win over global audiences. Bruce wasn't just about the numbers. He changed how fight scenes were made, introducing moves so fast they had to be slowed down to be seen on film. His famous one-inch punch could hit with 300 pounds of force, showing how much power technique could generate. He also smashed racial barriers, becoming the first Asian actor in Hollywood to earn $100,000 per film in 1973, a huge milestone. Sammo Hung brought his own magic to martial arts films over a career that spanned 6 decades. In the 1980s, his films like Warriors 2 and The Prodigal Son changed how traditional kung fu was filmed. He used up to 36 cameras to capture every tiny movement in Wing Chun techniques. Sammo didn't stop there. He created a new genre of Chinese vampire movies with Encounters of the Spooky Kind, 1980, which inspired over 100 similar films. His greatest invention might have been the mobile camera technique. In Eastern Condors, 1986, the camera moved with the fighters, making the action feel faster and more alive. Sammo also mixed comedy with action, choreographing long, exciting fights that still made audiences laugh, like in Wheels on Meals, 1984. Martial arts movies didn't always look like they do today. Before 1973, fight scenes were slow and theatrical, more like watching a play than a fight. After Bruce Lee, they became faster, sharper, and more realistic. Then, from 1985 to 2000, filmmakers started using wires and crazy stunts, creating bigger, flashier scenes in movies like Project A, 1983. By the early 2000s, Hollywood began borrowing ideas from Hong Kong films. The Matrix, 1999, used a Hong Kong choreographer, Yuen Wu Ping, to mix Eastern and Western fighting styles. This combination became so popular that even superhero movies like Iron Man, 2008, started using martial arts in their action scenes. There's also a deep respect among the stars of martial arts cinema. Bruce Lee once sparred with Sammo Hung on the set of Enter the Dragon, and they shared tips and admiration for each other's styles. Jackie Chan, who worked as a stuntman on Bruce's films, had his own memorable moment. During a scene, Bruce accidentally hit him, and instead of brushing it off, he spent 10 minutes apologizing. Jackie later said this taught him a lot about professionalism and kindness. These movies didn't just stay on the screen. When Bruce Lee's films became hits, martial arts schools in America saw enrollments triple between 1973 and 1975. Today, his influence shows up in everything from video games to dance choreography. The John Wick movies openly credit Hong Kong cinema for their complex fight scenes. Even academics have studied martial arts films, with nearly 1,000 papers written about their global impact. In 2004, the Library of Congress preserved Enter the Dragon as a culturally significant film. Now, martial arts movies generate $4 billion a year worldwide, and their techniques are everywhere. From the punch of a kung fu master to the slick moves of modern action heroes, these films continue to inspire audiences and shape cinema in ways we still see today.